Guys, is my screen visible?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So we will continue saying the try and accept, which we were saying yesterday, the exception handling. So the one example what we saw is zero division by error, how to handle it. Like you have to put your logic inside try, whatever logic you have, and then you have to give some error message inside the except. So this will not abruptly stop the code and it will give you some error message, uh, meaningful error message. So let's see. If I don't use exception handling and I'm just doing x is equal to 10 by 0, it will give me this error. So this will stop the program from execution and it will throw me this error. But when I handle it well, like I put it inside try and in the except I can give any error message, any error name and the message I can give. So if I do this, here it looks like the program has given some output. So it is telling that it cannot divide by 0 and proceed. It will not break your program at this line. So it will continue with the remaining piece of code. So after try except we have one more keyword called rise. Rise is manually triggering an exception when you need. Okay. So for example, I have a logic where I have to check, for example, I have a website where I'm not allowing anyone to enter if their age is less than 18, something like that. Okay. So here, this is age is less than 18. Actually, this will not create any error because if the age is less than 18, like it's not zero divide by zero, like the system will create any error. So here there is no issue at all. But in your logic, you want to create an issue, create an error whenever the age is less than 18. So what I do, I raise an error here. Here I have to use raise keyword. So raise and I'm giving some error name and also the error message inside it. Okay. Otherwise, we are going to grant the access. Okay. I have created this function. Now let me pass. So I'm passing age 20 and access is granted for me. If I pass age 15, so it is going to raise a value error. It is telling age must be 18 or older. So rise is just to create your own error. When you want to create an error like how Python does, you can go for rise. And we have another keyword called finally. So finally block will always execute whether an exception occurs or not. So it is useful when you want to do some cleanup activity. For example, you have opened a file and you found some issue after you're opening a file using Python and Excel, and then you're adding data to it. And then while adding data or handling the data, you face some error. So what will happen? The program will stop and it will exit, right? But the file will still be open. It will not be closed because before you have other logic to do before you closing, but before that only you face some error. So in this case, the file or any kind of resource, like you are opening a DB connection to update something, but while updating there is some issue. So your program will exit, give some error message and it will exit. In that case, even the DB connection will not be closed. So Here, if you have the DB connection open, it will never be closed, and always that one connection is always active, but it's not used by anybody. Similarly, the same file will be open and nobody can update it because since it is open, you others cannot open and update it. So it will create issue. To avoid this issue, we have finally. So it is mainly for cleanup task. Finally is. So even when there is an error, you wanted to do something, then you have to use finally. So for example, here I'm opening a file. I'm not using with. With will automatically close in case if in case I'm not using with. So I have to close it manually. So what I'm doing here, I have some issue. I'm raising an exception. Then finally I'm closing it. Even whether the exception occurred or not, this particular piece will be run at the end. We are closing. So we are making sure at any cost, whether there is an issue with the program or not, we are closing the file at the end. Whether we are updating or not, whatever we have opened, we have to close it. So this is the main reason for finally we use it usually for the cleanup task. Okay, I do not have this file. What is this path? Let me create one file here. So distilling file not fun, but it is closing. txt. So we have try, which defines a block of code to test for error. You have some logic. You want to test whether you want to see whether that logic throws any error or not. That particular logic you will put inside try, and you want to catch or handle any exception, you will put it inside the except. And if you when you want to manually raise an exception, you use rise. And when you want to execute something, even when there is an issue, before exiting, you want to execute something like mainly for the cleanup task, we use finally. Okay, let's see another example.
Ma'am, here raise when in which case we have to use.
Raise is manually when you want to raise an exception. For example, here age less than 18 is not an issue at all. Even Python is not going to throw any error, right?
Uh,
So in that case, I'm raising an error. I do not want this to be continued. So when I what I'm doing is I'm giving some error name and the error message. So that particular error got occurred when I gave age 15. When I call the same program, and if I pass less than 18,
okay. If you want to put something like condition, right?
yeah.
Okay.
So I have this code where you're getting value and you're dividing A and B. And I have raised zero division and value error. We have seen this example yesterday, and if there is no exception, it is going to print. Okay. So let me run this. What will be the output now?
Error code.
What is telling error code, integer division of modulo by 0 is not possible. What would be the output of this?
Zero division around.
Wait, this is not 0, right? You're not dividing it by 0.
Value error.
So it is telling error code, and whatever the value error we usually get, that particular value, that message we is captured and we are printing it. So we are capturing value error as v. Usually we see this error. Invalid letter for integer with base. This is what the value error usually give the message. So that we are capturing and we are putting it here. If in case you want to customize your error message, you can customize it. What would be the output of this?
Three.
So I have this piece of code, okay? And I want to add exception handling for this piece of code. What should I do? What should I add to handle exception thrown by this code?
Value.
Sorry?
Value error.
No, no. Actually, there is value error that is there, but there might be other errors also. Whatever the error is, I want to handle the exception. What do we do usually to handle the exception here?
Try accept.
Okay, so I'll be adding try here for the logic, and later I'll be adding except, right? So I'll be telling an error occurred. So it is telling an error occurred because you cannot square a. It's not a number, right? So I have an assignment. Okay. So this is a piece of code, def ask, and later you're calling this function. Okay. So here, write a function that you have to write a logic first of all. Write a function that asks for integer and print square of it. So you have to get input from the user, an integer. Then you have to find square and you have to print that result. Okay. You have to use while, okay, while loop until the user assume that user is giving, not giving right input initially. Okay, for few times. So you are doing it in a while loop until you get a right input from the user. And you have to use try except and else block, and you have to use a while loop and try except and else block here. First you have to write the logic to get the input from the user and print the output. Then on top of it you have to add these all. Okay, so my output should look like I have to ask an integer. For example, if the user is giving null, tell an error occurred, please try again. Since we are inside the while loop, it will again go and ask for the input next time. I can give any value, so it for any issue, it is going to throw me this error. Later, when I give a proper value, it is going to give me the squared number. Okay, so my output should look like this. So I'll paste this inside chat. Someone who is having Teams and mobile, please copy and post this inside our WhatsApp group so that everybody can copy this assignment. Okay, so let's go to the next topic. This is all about exception handling, error and exception handling. Sometime you will know what the error is, so you can call that. If you know you are expecting zero division, you can tell that whenever zero division, print that message or value error. But in some cases, you will not know what the error is. In that case, you can just put except and you can tell, or whatever error has raised, you can capture that error message and you can print it. Okay. So the next topic is unit testing in Python. We have seen how to debug Python code when you see some syntax error, and we have also seen how to handle exception thrown by Python to avoid abrupt termination of your code. And we also seen how to raise your own exception on uncertain scenarios. Now we will see how to test your code logic again against few inputs. Okay. Uh, so what usually happens in real world is whenever I write my piece of code, I'll also be writing a unit testing code for it, which means if any other developer who wanted to test my code, I just has to run the unit test code I have written that will test my piece of code. Okay. So why do we have this practice is, for example, we have 100 of logic already. Now I'm adding 101 logic to my code, to the existing code repo. Uh, in that case, what happens? I add something and I test it locally. Like I call it and like how we are calling and seeing whether the output is matching or not. Something. This is what we do. The test is nothing but here we have tried a few inputs, right? We have tried age 20, we have tried age 15, and we were seeing what is the output it's showing. And we were also trying different value here, divide by zero and value error and normal input. So it is giving output as I expect. Similarly, whatever the code piece of code I write for that particular function, I'll be testing it locally. Okay. So after testing, when I see the outputs are good, I'll be adding it to the other the repo. Repo means it has all your application code. I am adding it to the repo. Okay. Initially, I'll not add. I will test it. Then I will commit and add it to the repo. But some case scenario, what happens is the piece of code what I've written will work standalone properly. But when I add it to the mix, it might break some other code. Maybe here I might be calling something or something. If it calls this, there might be some issue. So what we do, we write a test case instead of manually write test executing some test. No, whatever I'm doing now, I'm putting it in the file. So any person can come and execute the other developer. For example, if Malde is writing different function, she can test her function and also she can test my function. So what we do, we have, for example, we have divide function and we have test for divide function. Similarly, everybody in the team has written one function. For example, me, Maldi, Vijay, Rahul, Arlene, Amit, everybody has written one function and they have written a test function against their function, okay, which will be having multiple input and it will tell what is the output should be. And here, when I write my piece of code, I first manually test whether my piece of code is good and I add it to the test code and create one test code. Then I go and execute all the test codes available in the repo. So for example, if everyone is having one test code, which means a test unit test code which will test their own function, right? I'll be calling everything. So here I'm making sure whenever I add something to the repo, I make sure my code is standalone working fine. And I also make sure adding my code to the other code is not disrupting the existing code. So how do I make sure? I again go and run the test of all the test which is available, all the function which is I will run test for all the function which is already created and available in the repo. So I'll execute everything. If something is failing, then I can communicate. I can see why my code is disrupting that particular piece of code. Then I can go and fix. So we have this, so to find all these issues at the committing stage, we have, we usually write unit testing in Python so that not just you, anybody can test your code. Okay. And we have several framework and PyTest is one of the popular framework in Python. We use this framework. We use this framework to run test case for your Python code. Okay. So to use this framework first, we have to install it, like pip install PyTest, and then why this is not working? Okay, pip install PyTest. This framework is now installed. Then I can verify whether this framework is properly installed. I can give PyTest py.test hyphen h. Let me try it here. So when I give py, the Jupyter is not able to get it, but when you run it in your local, so when I give py.test hyphen h is nothing but help. This will display all the expression we have in PyTest and what is that meaning. So it is going to give you the help manual. Okay. So now let me show an example. First, let me write a simple function. Okay. So here I have two lists, A and B, and all the common elements I am putting into the uh, all the common elements between A and B, I'm putting it inside this common elements. Okay. So for all x in A, if x is there in B, then it will put that x into common elements. So it will pick one value from A, and if that particular value is available in B, it will put it into common elements. And we are running it in for loop. So it will go to the next value 2. If it is there inside B, it will go and put it into common element. Then similarly A, it will check. Okay. So let me run this. So it is telling these are all the common values we have between A and B. That is true. Um, but here there is an issue. I am expecting what is common between A and B. What are all the common values?
1 to 1, ma'am.
One is there, two is there,
2.
and this two is not there.
Yes.
It is checking, and here one is there. So I'm expecting 1, 2, 1. But what I'm saying is 1, 2 to 1, because when it checks, it is A2 is there. Yeah, 2 is there. So it is going to tell 2 is there. That's why the 2 is added to the common element. It is doing a check for this 2. And if it is there in B, it is there. So it will picking and putting it into this common element. That is why you got another 2. But my expectation is 1, 2, 1. Okay. So now let me change the input a little. Okay. So this common element, assume this common element is a function I have written. Okay. And I have passed this input A and B. And it's not returning what I expect. Again, here one is matching this one. So we are printing. Two is matching this two. We are printing. And this two, it's not matching with any because this is already matching with this. And this one is matching with this. Again, here I am expecting 1 to 1, but it is giving me 1 to 2, 1. Correct? But if I, for example, here I remove this 2. Okay. So I'm modifying my input. Here in this case, it is working. Let me do this way. Okay. So in this case, one is matching this with one and two is matching with this two. So in this case, it is working fine. I do not see any issue. But just with testing one single input, I cannot determine whether my function is going to work for every input. So I'm giving some 2 to 3 different input. I'm seeing what if I give duplicate and how it's behaving. So I found based on these input, I based on this input, I thought my function is working exactly how I wanted. But with this input, I understood there is some issue with my function. It cannot handle certain use cases. So I have to modify my logic a little now. Okay. So what I'm doing, see, when one is matching this one and two is matching with this two, and this two is again matching with the already which is paired with this two, right? So if I remove this value, whatever is matching, right? If I remove that from B, in that case, you will have only three and one available remaining, right? And there will be no two here available for matching. So you will tell that this two is not matching. Later one, this one is matching with this one, correct? So let me put it in form of code. So what I'm doing, I'm creating a normal list, empty list, which will hold all your common element. Then I'm making a copy of B and then I'm putting it into the remaining element. I'm creating some empty list called remaining and then later I'm putting list B into it, this B, okay? Here, for every element in A, the same thing for every X in A, I will check whether that element is present in this remaining element. Instead of B, I'm checking it here, the copy of B. When I found, I will append that particular element into the comment, like we are adding that X into that comment. What I'm doing, since it's a list now, empty list, I'm appending that particular element, whatever is common, to the common element. Then what I'm doing, I'm adding additional logic. Whatever element I have appended, that particular element I will remove from the remaining element. From here, I'll remove so that if there is a duplicate, so here 2 is a duplicate. So again, it will come and match here, right? It will not occur because when you match this with this all will be removed already. Whenever you match something, you are removing it immediately from the remaining list. So in that case, when again the other duplicate, it will not, the element will not be exist to create a match. So let me run this. Now, what I'll do, I will, we had issue with this input, right? Let me copy this input and I'll put it here. Let's run and see. So here you see it is giving 1 to 1. We were seeing 1 to 1. So now my issue is fixed. So now I have written a function, I have multiple input. So I cannot just test my function with one single input. I have to test it against multiple input so that I make sure for any kind of input, my function is working fine as expect. So here I know the input and I also know the output, correct? I know this, I am giving some sample input and I know because I have written this code, I expect this to be the output. So I am expecting this. When I see this, I feel my function is working fine. When I see some different result, I know there is some issue with the logic I have written, and I have to fix it. I have to see where it is not working fine, and I have to go and fix it. Right. So uh, here inside this PyTest framework, we have a keyword called assert. Okay. Assert is will test particular input against your code. Okay. So here the expression, the condition you want to test. Okay. If the condition is failing, then it will raise an assertion error. Okay. And message is optional. Whatever you want to display, you can display it here. So assert is actually not a function or a method or expression, but rather it's a statement. It is used for debugging and testing purpose to check whether a given condition is true. If the condition is false, assertion error is automatically raised and your program will get halted. Okay. So assert can be used in different cases like precondition and debugging, but mainly we use it for testing to write our test code. But let me show the other possible scenario with assertion. So here I'm adding a precondition based on using assert. Okay. So here I have a divide function and I'm telling assert the denominator shouldn't be zero. We can never allow the denominator to be zero. So assert, and this is the expression I'm telling b cannot be zero. Only when it's true it will proceed. If it is false, it will abruptly end. And here I have given the error message denominator must not be zero. Okay. So it is raising an assertion error. It is telling denominator must not be zero. Okay. So this error message is printed assertion error denominator must not be zero. There is a precondition. It's checking and it's not letting you to go. And also we use it for debugging and testing purpose. So here is an example. So what I'm doing, I am calculating a discount for a given price. For example, you have a um, you're purchasing something and you have a price, and I'm telling beyond 5K 20% offer and beyond 10K 30% offer. So based on your price, the discount is applied and immediately it is calculated by the machine or the computer, right? So there will be function inside it. So here I have a price and discount. Whatever the price is, it will be different for different user, right? The price will always vary between user. I have to apply the discount. I have to tell discounted price in return. Here I am having a condition that discount cannot be between 0 and 1. Because if the discount is 0, what will happen? It's a negative scenario. There won't be any zero discount, right? A particular scenario, we will not have any discount. For example, what I'm telling is above 5,000, if you purchase 20% discount, above 10,000, 30% discount. But if you have purchased only 1,000 rupees, there is no discount available for you. So in that case, it is zero discount only. But I shouldn't be allowing the value zero because it might create some issue. So what I'm doing, I'm creating an assertion. I'm telling discount cannot be between 0 and 1. So I'm raising an error. Okay. 5,000 and 20% discount. What is the issue? Okay, here I'm telling discount should be 0 and 1. It should be 0 to 1. So let me give 1. Actually, it should be the other way. Discount shouldn't be 0 to 1. So you see, when I give 1%, this is the output I see. The calculation, there will be some issue with the calculation. That's why we are telling do not give 0 to 1 as discount. Okay. So discount should not be. Okay. Here it should. Discount should not be 0 to 1. It is giving me the error message. But if at all, what is the issue? Discount cannot be greater than 0 and less than or equal to 1. Discount should not be greater than 0, less than 1. What is the issue? Okay, equal to or less than 0 and less than or equal to 1. Why this is not working? Price 5,000, discount 20, equal to or less than 0 or equal to or less than 1. Let me give 0. This is working opposite way. Okay, assume if I give greater than 1, it should fail. So when I give greater than 1, so it is going to throw me an error. When I give equal to less than 1 or equal to 1, it is going to give me the output. So some um, issue I can understand with the asset. So let's see how to create our own test code. So I'll show an example. Here I have sample.python. So I have sample.python. No. So I have sample.python, which has multiple function. Okay. It is having duplicate code and it is having another function. Okay. And we are calling, no, this is not sample. Uh, so yeah, let me go to calculator only. So the first thing you have to install PyTest framework, and now this is my calculator function, which is adding a value and returning. Okay, and I have to write a test code for this, a unit test code. So my test name, the file name should be test underscore my original file name. So that anybody can understand which test code is written for which file. So I'm giving my Python file here, and before I'm just adding test underscore. Okay. So here what I'm doing, since it's in a different file, I am importing it. So what I'm telling from this module, import this function calculator. Okay. And then later I'm calling that. I'm creating a new function, test calculator. Inside that new function, what I'm doing, I'm just calling this calculator. Okay. And I'm giving a value 1 and 2. So here nothing but I'm just calling this function calculator from function from a different file. So I have to import, and here I'm doing it inside a function. So I'm creating a function, I'm just calling it, and I'm capturing the result. Later what I'm doing, I'm just writing an assertion. So the assertion what it will do. So this assertion will check whether that result is 3, because I know when I add 1 and 2, it should be 3. So similarly, I need not do this and all. So here I'm calling the calculator add function and I'm performing and saving it in the result. Later I'm checking. Otherwise, what I can do, I can directly call this here. So I'm just checking when I call this function, the output should be 3. Here in this case, the output should be -1. So we have one positive and one negative, at least one positive scenario, one negative scenario should be there. And also here I'm adding negative numbers. Okay, so, some different unique data I'm adding and I'm checking. So what I'll do, this function, this particular file will test all these input against this. So when it the value is not matching, it is going to throw me an assert error. Okay, so show it simple. I'll put it in Jupyter. So I have this original function, and here I'm just running my test against my function. So these are the tests I'm running. So here is the function is just add. So I'm just calling add and I'm checking. Since I was writing it inside a class, I had self, but now the standalone, I know I do not want the self keyword. What is the problem here? So it is telling this particular use case got failed. Okay. So it what it does, it execute all the assertion one after another. When something is failing, it will indicate which test case got failed. Here, this 5 assert got failed, line number 5, because minus 1 and -1 when you add it, it will give -2, but you are telling 0. So here in this case, we are giving the wrong output itself to the assertion. So let me change this. Let me run this now. I didn't see any error at all now. I'm running it again. So from 53 it will change to 54. It is not giving me any error. So what everybody will do, they will run their test case again and again. Whenever there is a new code audit, they will run all the test files. We will have one file where we will be calling all the test Python file. When we click on it, it will run all the function, all the test cases we have written for all the function we have in the repo. And if something is failing, it will state this particular assertion is failing. Okay. Clear guys, are we clear with assertion?
Yes, ma'am.
Actually, if I show it in VS Code, it will be better because here I just have to go and run that particular file. It will show me this test case got failed and pass it. The message will be beautiful in VS Code. It's not that good in Jupyter. I actually have some issue with VS Code. Tomorrow I'll install and I'll show example. But yeah, this is what we do. We after we use PyTest, we just add assert, and when it's not matching, it is going to fail. For example, if I give a minus b, in that case, all my output will be failing because I'm expecting add, but my logic is not right. So it is failing at the first result itself. Here itself, it is failing, and it is not. After that, it is not going through at all. So we have to fix it. So yeah, we will meet tomorrow. We will see this example in VS Code, and also please complete your assignment, and we will go through it. We will end our session here, guys. We will meet tomorrow. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Mhm.